Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged is finally here. In 2022, the first iteration of the series brought one of the most fun arcade races of the year to the market, alongside some very welcoming childhood memories. And this year, Milestone alongside Mattel are looking to replicate that success once again. We already got our hands onto the title, and I personally have found 5 things that really surprised me about Hot Wheels Unleashed 2. And with that, welcome back to Overtake. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 may have not been on your radar. As it was the case with the first title, the light of bigger releases often throw a glooming shadow over some games which may deserve more attention. The basis of Unleashed has stayed the same. You are driving, jumping, and crashing while using everybody's favorite childhood racing toys, the Hot Wheels. These awesome rides feature anything from funky dream creations to real-life replicas of race cars. Races mostly consist of a drive around on a designated and unique track in the iconic Hot Wheels orange. Ramps, loops, and rings of fire help to keep you on your heels while you navigate through a difficult field of challengers. Everything is authentic and true to source material. One thing I criticized last year was the actual scope of the game. There was a lot to do, too much in my opinion, and nothing felt really polished. Right after booting up Unleashed 2, however, the first thing that surprised me was revealed. This time everything is much more concise. The whole world is packed into a single menu with easy to navigate categories and an even easier start to the gameplay. It is also easy to navigate through our wide array of YouTube classics. If you want to find that out for yourself, then leaving a like, a sub, and a tap on that bell may be the best thing for you to do, so you're always in the loop whenever we drop something like this. Get it? In the loop? The first Unleashed suffered from a lot of oversaturation, whereas here, it is a smooth transition from one point to another. You are still able to drive single races in various different modes, such as time trial or my personal favorite, elimination, and this time even a real story has been implemented. There's also the return of the livery editor and the track creator, which we will cover later on. In general, this is very important as the game now clearly has their target audience in mind, which are young people. You are able to quickly join a race and have fun, with almost no unnecessary add-ons in your way. But having spoken about it, what did surprise me about the gameplay? Hot Wheels Unleashed 1 has made a lasting impression on me with very precise and fun gameplay. The quickness of the races alongside with its tricky nature sometimes made me a real fan, and I actually played it from time to time still. The only thing that was missing in my book was some form of interaction aside from simple boosts or drifts. And lo and behold, the second surprise I got with Unleashed 2 was that the gameplay has evolved a ton. While the game modes have largely stayed the same, the introduction of jumps and dashes into the races is very welcome and adds another dimension to the game. I know, it's not like Milestone had to dig too deep to find these features. They probably just looked at every kart racer ever released, but still good on them for implementing those, because they do make the difference. There's also plenty of new terrain and track design. Races feel less bare bones and empty now, as there's always a fast track or boost field opposed to just twice a lap. Alongside the newest additions to the mechanics, that is truly great to see. You can now create a lot more chaotic situations, and the in-game AI can be terribly mean with a boost dash. Oh, and on a higher difficulty setting, like hard or extreme, you're in for a real ride. Milestone also added a multitude of interactable objects that plaster some parts of the track. Having to jump to avoid them is useful, but can also cause further issues, because you can simply fly off the track, now much more easier than last year. Every track is set on one of 5 locations, which all feature a fairly detailed environment should you fall off. So while adding a lot to the gameplay, it simultaneously creates the need for you to be more cautious at times. Because with great ability comes great responsibility. I think Michiel said that once. One thing I was kind of let down by is that speed still topples everything else. So in theory, the new boost dash could be used to ram other players off the track. But in almost no situations would I go for a bulkier car over one that is light and quick. If you add such cool features, it would have been nice for them to matter a bit more and change the balancing too. Other than that, the things I really liked about Unleashed 1 are still present this year. The attention to detail is immaculate once again. You can see changes in your car depending on which surface you raced on, and even fingerprints on your rides during the end of a race as if they were played with. And at this point, I really want to show my gratitude towards this not being an open world racing game. This style of gameplay just fits so much better in the race-to-race archetype. I recently have done a video talking about exactly that. If you're interested in that matter, go ahead and watch this right afterwards. But the gameplay is only that much without the heart of the Hot Wheels, the vehicles. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 has seen a bit of change in the drivables as well. The original Hot Wheels from the Unleashed 1 era have largely returned, but are now also accompanied by bikes and ATVs. The variety of vehicles has therefore been upped from 66 to 130, which is not an astronomical amount, but each car has their own character, and the variance between them is large. I've yet to find the rolling toaster from last year, but tanks and farming trucks have found their way onto the orange racing line, alongside some LMP clones and two-wheelers. There has been a change in how you acquire these vehicles now, and that was the third thing that surprised me. The loot boxes from the first Unleashed are officially out. While those who know me may think I jumped a little bit from being happy about it, I'm still kind of on the fence about it, funnily enough. You see, previously, to get cars in Unleashed, you had to collect gold coins and buy your ride of choice in a shop, which reset after a certain amount of time. That is still in the game, but the alternative with the loot boxes has vanished. Instead, they added an alternative gambling action with this surprise wheel. From my experience, the loot boxes of Unleashed 1 actually gave you semi-useful stuff from time to time, whereas this newly added wheel is basically a flop 80% of the time. So it's not that Milestone just wanted to tone down the child-unfriendly loot boxes, but rather make the game a little bit more grindy and rare cars less likely to be won. Vehicles are still categorized in rarities, with a common, rare, legendary, and super treasure hunt. But there is another classification now which is correlated to the power. Stock, powered, and ultimate are the categories there. You can use an upgrade system to let your favorite ride pass from one category to another. You see, every vehicle in Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 can be upgraded using skill points, which you can earn by leveling up or progressing the story. These can then be used to further a certain part of one of your cars, bikes, or whatever. Vehicles are still measured in speed, acceleration, braking power, and handling, with boost being the NOS-like category. Upgrading a vehicle enough will let it transition from stock to powered, for example. Neat addition, especially if you want your pet car to be a rocket in the future. But let's step aside from the racing and look at some of the customization options Unleashed 2 brings. The track and livery editor make a glorious return in Unleashed 2. And rightfully so. Building your own track may just be the biggest no-brainer ever in correlation with Hot Wheels. But I have to admit, I didn't like it in the previous title that much. I can safely say I am not as crafty as I would need to be in order to design great tracks in Hot Wheels. And last year, I felt largely left alone in the track editor that was hard to navigate at times. And the result often looked like a drag race track more than anything else. The fourth thing that surprised me in Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is the fact that in this department, not a whole lot has happened. A tutorial level and some explanations later, I still felt uninspired and a bit lost. I would have wished for the game to give me some suggestions or at least increase the amount of walkthrough available. I can totally see people being of different opinion here and wanting maximum freedom, but I don't think it's too much to ask to get some optional help here and there. Having said that, if I take myself out of the equation, I can safely say Unleashed 2 has one of the best track editors on the market. And kudos for them to increase the amount of customization available, but I would have liked for the less imaginative people to still be able to build more than a meager strip. May just be me though. The livery editor is also largely the same, but now you can have the most emojied car ever to scare your opponents. The variety in stickers is still high, and there is a lot of possibilities that can be thrown together, but nothing that would be a step forward to last year. And that kind of sets the tone for the thing I was most surprised by. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is an incredibly fun and entertaining game, once again. There have been numerous changes to the gameplay, which will undoubtedly increase the playability of the online mode, which we unfortunately weren't able to test pre-release. If you want a follow-up on that, leave a comment down below and we will make it happen. But amongst all these changes, one thing remained, and that is the lack of incentives. The most surprising thing to me was that Milestone did not attempt to revamp the structure of the single player even a little bit. We haven't talked about the story in too much detail, and that is because it is just a very minuscule addition to the actual campaign. Last year I said it would be cool to have a few cutscenes here and there, which would help to upgrade the slow progression you have in single player. They did add them this time, and I still don't feel enticed to grind the story. Aside from the fact that there are really just that, cutscenes, aside from the occasional boss fight, and don't change anything about the upcoming races, there's no overarching goal you work towards. I have to admit, for kids, this is a fitting kind of storytelling, and that is really what it is tailored towards, but even there, stuff could have been improved. How about you use the in-game environments to create different stages which require certain types of vehicles to tackle them? Or how about after you finish a race, you get the opportunity to try it again on a higher difficulty to challenge yourself for increased rewards? Don't just chain races together and sometimes have a cutscene every third. That's just lazy and wasted potential in my eyes. I am just worried that Unleashed 2 will have no long-term playability once again, and it's just the second part to a now yearly release cycle. They did reduce the scope to fit a younger player base, but I don't think that prohibited them from creating and incentivizing gameplay. While the gameplay shows immense potential and the graphics and sound are still amongst the best for fun racers I've ever seen, there's not a whole lot of difference towards the first part of Unleashed, and that is a shame. The game runs smoothly on 60 FPS or higher on any somewhat relevant machine, and is simultaneously very pretty to look at, something even large developers struggle with at times. Even from a sound design perspective, Unleashed 2 is very well made and feature a lot of comfort for fans of engine sounds and so on. Additional bonus points are there for the inclusion of split screen again, but is it really enough evolution for this game? If you are looking for a quick little intermezzo that brings back some childhood memories, Unleashed 2 is awesome. It plays well, and that is the main reason I like it. If you however look for something you can still happily play in 2 or 3 months, this game is not made for you. Should you still want to buy Unleashed 2, then you can do so on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, as well as on PC and on Switch. And if you want to know something about another arcade racer, then our Crew Motorfest review is still fresh as a daisy. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, cheerio.